Welcome, everyone. Namaste. Welcome to Dharma Talks today. We're just awaiting Ruthie's arrival, so we're going to get started with our meditation. And Ruthie asked me to read a passage, so I'll read it now and again later when she comes. And it's from the Dhammapada, which is the sayings of the Buddha. And this is the first one, and it's called Choices. And this is just the first page of a few pages. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you, as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow, unshakable. And there's a man named Mike Dooley who writes Notes from the Universe, who's quite famous in the spiritual community. And he simplified it down to thoughts create things, choose the good ones. And so that's going to be the focus of our meditation today. So let's begin with closing our eyes and taking some clearing breaths. Settling yourself onto your cushion into this space, withdrawing your senses from the outer world and coming within. Let your awareness fall on the inhale and exhale. And the main meditation that is done in Buddhist circles is just as a quiet, silent meditation where you're just observing your breath and looking to keep your mind clear of thoughts. But today we're going to add to that. We take on the observer viewpoint where we're witnessing our thoughts as if we're somebody outside of ourselves. And so while we're sitting here and just allowing thoughts to pass by without engaging, if a thought does engage you, I'd like for your observer to discern if it's what the phrasing was, an impure thought or a pure thought. Does it have a negative connotation to it or a positive connotation? And if it is negative in any way, if you are grasping at something, if you have an aversion to something, if you're clinging to something, if you are disrupted by the thought, then see if your observer can flip it around to find something positive. So if you were thinking, I wish this thing wasn't occurring, instead place the thought of your preference. I feel wonderful when I feel this, instead of I feel horrible when this is occurring. So stating your sense of being in a delightful manner. And this is just starting to recondition your mind from always going to the negative. And this is just a practice to start catching that and turning it without criticizing yourself. It's very natural to think negative things. So this is our own meditation training. So let's sit for several minutes together now, clearing our minds and flipping anything that does arise. Take a big, deep breath in. With your eyes closed, rub your palms together, warming up your palms. Place them over your eyes. And very slowly, draw your hands away as you slowly open your eyes. Gently returning to the outer world and maintaining the peace that you've cultivated within you. Namaste.
Our Dharma leader today, Ruthie, is just arriving, so let her get settled for a second here.
Hi, Buddha. How are you? My apologies. My chauffeur forgot about me. And until Sharon called, I was sitting there thinking about my talk for today and running it through my head, trying to get some kind of outline. And Sharon called, and I'm like, oh. So he came rushing down, and here we are. And I thank you all for not beating me over the head for being late. I thought you were kind of late too, weren't you?
I got here at 10. Yes.
Oh, you got here on time. Okay.
Just barely.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for the introduction for me. And did you read the?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. So let me go ahead and begin. The Buddha said, I teach but two things, suffering and the cessation, the ceasing of suffering. It's a very simple statement with a lot that comes after. The first noble truth really is a simple statement that all sentient beings experience suffering, and that this suffering is on a spectrum from minor to major. Okay, everybody can understand that. There's no secret there. The second noble truth says the causes of suffering are these, and they're outlined, and we can follow them. And it's all pretty self-evident once we talk about it, once we explore it. And in the second noble teaching, truth, we will find ourselves. It's very easy somewhere along the line to say, oh yeah, that's me. I'm hanging on to something that happened 25 years ago, and it's past time to let it go. Or this, or that, or the other thing. Or I am addicted, and I know I shouldn't be, and it's causing me to suffer, and my friends and my family to suffer. So we can find ourselves very much in that. It was the most profound examination of the human mind ever presented at that period in time. And 2,600 years later, it's a basis for a great deal of study and scientific exploration of the workings of the mind. It's being confirmed in many respects on things that may have been thought to be not true, such as neuroplasticity. The Buddha said, yes, your mind changes all the way, and it's a continuum that goes on, so it never stops. That was not believed for several centuries. So that's the first and second one. And you will notice that both of them are what Jeff talked about in his last talk. They are both recognition. Recognition of suffering. Recognition of the causes of suffering. Awareness, which everything begins with awareness. And now we come to the topic we left a couple of talks ago, which is the third noble truth. And now you move from just recognition to Jeff's second R, release. Because the third noble truth is the cessation of suffering. And possibly three of the most transforming words you will ever experience in your life, maybe, maybe not, are found in this teaching. And that is, suffering is optional. Suffering is optional. Now, whereas in the first two you say, well, yeah, I get that, that's true. This one you may say, oh no, wait a minute. Suffering's not optional. I didn't ask for the suffering in my life. So-and-so's to blame. Such and such is to blame. I didn't bring it on myself. It was brought to me. I had no choice. That's the answer right there. You did have choice. You do have choice. You always have choice. And it is the choice that's transformative. Now, you know, I sometimes talk in meditation about meditation is the still point of the turning world. You go within, and everything else is moving around. But you're centered and you're still. And it brings clarity to you. And we learn that it's the inside that actually is calling the shots. It's not what's happening. It can be disease, destruction, death. They're all going to happen. They're all out there. But it's not those things that determine who you are. And this takes us to what Lisa read, which is the very first paragraph of the Dhammapada, the sayings of the Buddha. All that we are is what we have thought. That's the basis for our action. That's a very karmic statement, because karma is everything we think, say, and do. It's a natural law, a moral natural law of consequence from the causes that we bring. Not out there, but we bring. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's pretty simple. And then the second part of that sentence is you have a choice. If you elect to think pure thoughts, good thoughts, if you follow the direction of your life to the good thoughts, the positive thoughts, goodness is going to follow you. Doesn't matter what's happening. If you have diseased thoughts, toxic thoughts, angry thoughts, jealous thoughts, greedy thoughts, all the negative thoughts, it stands to reason. You're going to be a miserable human being. And there are a lot of people who don't seem to mind that. Or they don't realize they have a choice. That they actually can train and control their mind. As Jeff pointed out, we talk about mind control as a bad thing when it's from somebody else controlling your mind. But when you're controlling your own mind, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So now, what's going to happen if we say, okay, I got the first noble truth, I got the second noble truth, now I'm on the third one, I got to make a choice. Do I want to continue with this, Because if I really start down this path, I don't know where it's going to take me. And I don't know how much work it's going to be. And I don't know, what if it means I'm going to have to give up things? Because renunciation's a big thing here. What am I going to have to, maybe I'll just forget the whole thing. Besides, I don't like meditating. That's your right and privilege. You can do that. And probably a majority do. But for those of us who say, okay, we're going to follow the Buddha's instruction to not take anything on blind faith, to be skeptical, and to give it a fair trial, a fair and honest trial, to see if this actually produces the kind of results that are sort of indicated here, that other people have experienced. Will it work for me? And if the answer to that is yes, then we'll get to the point of my talk today, which is what's going to happen to you next. There are going to be challenges. And the first challenge is to actually understand that we have two planes of existence. We live in a world of opposites, a dualistic world. Our everyday lives are conditioned by all kinds of factors. There's in and out and up and down and yes and no, and everything has an opposite. So if this enlightenment path is positive, and it's a matter of choosing, then we have to face each choice individually. We face choices all day long. Most of them we don't even think about. But anyway, we face each choice individually, and we make a decision. Well, the first challenge is uncertainty. If I make a decision, have I made the right decision? What are the consequences going to be? If I know my boss is cooking the books, and I have to make a decision about what to do about it, that could be tough. If my marriage is not good, I don't want to give it up. But is that where this is leading? Is it possible that I have to let go altogether? Let go? Do I really want to do that? Uncertainty. The first challenge is simply uncertainty. If I make a choice, I want to make the right choice. If I'm a person who's not in the habit of being honest with myself, I'm going to have to face that and say, you know what, there you go again, Ruthie, Don't fudge this. Don't embroider it. Don't make up a narrative to make it okay when it isn't okay. Or to make it not okay when it is okay. Either way. So that's the first challenge, really, maybe not the first, but is a challenge, is coping with uncertainty, which takes us to the 5 hindrances, of which the most potent is doubt. And if your uncertainty spreads too strongly in you, and you cannot resolve it, and you become paralyzed with self-doubt, the game's over. It's over right there. So how, again, do you say, when I'm not sure, can I be sure? So the Buddha says, well, we're going to give you a couple of tools. One of them is what Jeff was talking about, which is recognition, release, and replacement. I'll tell you in advance, The fourth noble truth is the replacement. You're now in the release phase. I need to release all the negative influences in my life to the best of my ability. And then I can deal with replacing them. A lot of that will just take place automatically anyway. But here I am now. I got to replace these things. So how do I go about this? Well, the three intentions are a start. That I will recognize them honestly. I will recognize my own life honestly. Secondly, I will honestly, clearly, as best I can, choose that which needs to be let go of in my life. Anything that is truly negative and irreparable. And I say irreparable because there are many things that look like they need to be let go of, but with a little more clarity of vision and a little more practice and more meditation, you find out that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And you can work around it. This is where marriages get saved, is at that stage. And replacement will come to, but that's part of replacement. Another thing is, how do we judge? We have to make judgments. Now, here we're going to get to that in a minute. But the judgments are going to be done this way. The original word for skillful was virtuously skillful. What works with virtue. So we generally say the first question to ask in a judgment is this skillful? But it's important to remember that it's meant to be virtuously skillful. You don't want to just be a skillful bank robber. You want to be a virtuously skillful human being. The second one is it healthy? Negative feelings are very hard on your body. They're not healthy, not only in your mind and in your relationships and everything else. They're very hard on your body. So is this healthy? Okay. And the third one is it beneficial to myself and to others? Now, if it is not beneficial, if it's harmful, then you've gone back to the intentions. The intentions being, the third one being, your second one, my third one, non-harming. The first one is, first one, here we go, is to release, to let go. The second one is non-harming, or what's the other one?
I don't know.
Well, we know what it is. I'll get it in a minute.
That's mine, but she's talking about the Diamond Sutra ones.
Go back. Okay. Well, we get there. Anyhow, you go back to the three intentions, and that's important. So, now you know that you have a yardstick. Now, I can't believe that it's gone out of my head. But anyway, never mind. All right, so now we're faced with a situation, and we say, okay, is there a positive choice here? Is there a choice to be made here? I'll make the positive one. I've already set my mind to going towards that direction. And then we're going to ask, if I take this choice, is it skillful? Is it healthy? Is it beneficial to the world? But now, another challenge is the challenge of paradox. We just talked about judgment. You're going to be told to be non-judgmental. Judge not, lest ye be judged. And in mindfulness meditation, it's to be non-judging. Whatever arises, leave it alone, let it arise. Don't judge it. Don't touch the narrative. Just watch it. But in your everyday life, you must make continuous judgments to make choices. And those judgments need to be very discerning. They're discernments. But this is all in the conditioned realm. Now, I love paradox. Every time you turn around, you run into one. Don't you love it when people say, oh, your life, you should be a life of service to others. That sounds so nice. And then somebody says, oh, mind your own damn business. They're both true. You have to pick whichever one is appropriate. So not only is it a choice of opposites, it's a choice of which opposite is appropriate for that particular occasion. So this is tricky. And it requires a bit of critical thinking, which is not something most of us are really excited about. Well, some of us are, maybe. But most of the time we aren't. We'd rather, watch television. So, but that's where it comes from. So you've got to deal with paradox. You've got to deal with doubt. And then you have to realize that there is a whole nother plane besides this dualistic world. We talk in Buddhism all the time about being one. A universe, a one-verse. Everything is interconnected. Everything is positive and connected to each other. So where do we go from this dualistic world to this non-dualistic world, which is the world of altruism? It's another plane of thought. The Dalai Lama has a name for it, and I'll think of it in a minute. I'm getting old and that's go out of my head. But anyway, subtle. He calls it a subtler level. There are 3 levels of subtle mind. So when we talk about no self and emptiness, people get pretty confused. You mean I don't exist? And you mean there's nothing out there? Everything's empty? That doesn't sound right. And it doesn't sound good. I don't want any part of it. So you have to really delve into what he's talking about. That you have a conditioned world and an unconditioned world. In an unconditioned world, which is the altruistic world, which becomes a sort of a way in which you move through your life, that's while you're making all these choices. And the altruistic world, for example, is love everybody. Love everyone. It's all about love, and Mother Teresa says, they're all jerks, but love them anyway. She has such a wonderful prayer. It was never between you and them anyway. Just love them. This is between you and God. So here we go. We do loving kindness meditation, and we carry it farther and farther and farther out until love embraces the entire universe. But on a conditioned basis, the Buddha will tell you it is better to travel alone than with bad companions. See? Paradox again. What is appropriate? You may love those bad companions, but you really need to stay away from them. We have to make these decisions, these choices, over and over and over again. So this is kind of what you face, and as you go along and you do these choices, you begin to understand the spectrum, that if you have good and evil, you don't say the middle way is here and I've got 1 foot in evil and 1 foot in good. You say they both exist. I cannot eradicate evil. It is not my function or purpose on this earth to eliminate all evil. So the middle way is not equal on both sides. This is not a moral equivalency. It says, I choose good, constructive instead of destructive, kind instead of cruel, generous instead of stingy, etc., etc., etc. So then you move to that area and you're establishing yourself there and you find the middle way there. And the easy one that I use, having been a mother, is with children. When Jeff talks, and rightly so, that the answer to suffering is detachment, he doesn't mean disconnection, which he always points out. We are connected very, very closely to our family. That's our basic unit, and no more so than to our children. But we must let go of them. We must detach from them. You may love someone in a marriage, love them deeply, but realize this is not good for either one of us. And nothing we're doing is fixing it. And now, unfortunately, the time has come when we have to make a choice. So we make these choices with as much clarity and mindfulness as we can, so that we make as few mistakes as possible, so that we do not live with remorse and regret. And a really good way to make a judgment if you're in doubt is to say, am I going to regret this later? Mother told me not to go to that party. You know, it helps to make those choices. So here we are. It's a confusing world. And we have absolute and relative. And the reason the Buddha is connected so much to science is because he understood that he was mainly interested not in any kind of religion. He was interested in reality. What is going on? What's really happening here? And he said, you know what? It depends on where you're standing. He was the first person to really talk about relativity. And that if you look at something from this angle, perception is so important. It's extremely at the forefront of Buddhist thought. Perception. If you perceive it from this point of view, it is not the same as if you look at it from another point of view. And you can control your perceptions once you've made them. Does that make sense? Can I throw this open a little bit for anybody here who has reached that point where you say, all right, I want to really understand the full saying. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Even our legal system in the United States, I guess worldwide, is the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is physical. You can't do anything about it. Well, you do what you can about it, but it's, there it is. Suffering is completely within your reach of managing, of controlling, of directing it. You don't have to suffer if you don't want to. And for the first time in my life, I suddenly understood that childhood saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Because I thought, oh yes, they can. Words can wound you so deeply. And on a conditional level, yes, they can. But if you go beyond that conditional, level, to the unconditional. No. It just go right on by. The Alan Parsons Project, I like his music a lot. He has a song called When I Am Old and Wise. And part of the lyric is, bitter words will never hurt me. Autumn winds will blow right. Bitter words mean nothing to me. Autumn winds will blow right through me when I am old and wise. And I think I understand now what he means by bitter words mean nothing to me. Let it go. Just let it go. It's not wise and it's not healthy. It's toxic to cling to grudges and old wounds. So that's where the Buddha says, okay, now we go to the releasing. And then when we really kind of get a grasp on that, and we'll go back on another talk, back to no self and back to emptiness, which are very understandable once you understand them, but they're confusing to start with. Then you're ready to really get on that path. And the path gives you wisdom, it gives you ethics, and it gives you meditation, which is the whole mind control thing. So Jeff, can you take this away and add to it or whatever? As I say, it's such a lot to unpack, and you can go on in every direction because everything you really realize is interconnected at this point.
The only thing that has, along with all the things that you're saying that I quoted last week, that really fits, is like a link to this, is that our problem with anything, our suffering with anything, has to do with our attachment.
Yeah, you have to let go.
You're not the problem. This situation is not the problem. I am the problem. I'm having a problem, and it's because of my attachment. If I can figure out how to detach, I've solved my problem. It's not you. It's me and my struggle with not attaching to that. And so when you talk about people saying things that are harmful and hurtful to us, if we don't attach to it, it doesn't hurt us. That's the autumn winds that you're talking about.
Right.
And so the real, for me, the real key to making good choices, as you're highlighting today, is detachment. And yet staying involved. That's it's a tricky thing. It's not being aloof. It's about how to let go of it and still be connected.
You cannot avoid being connected. We are all connected. This is a scientific fact. So there's no getting away from that. You might as well accept it. It's a done deal. But the detachment is up to you, or the attachment. That part is within your realm of power.
It changes how you deal with life, how you deal with people, how you deal with circumstances. When you get this stuff, it changes your mind. And you realize I'm in control of what's happening here. And now I've become this new habit of productive, healthy thing, and to let the other stuff drift by is like magic. If you want magic, it's magic.
Yeah, it is the magic.
Yes,
please.
It reminds me of Don Miguel Ruiz's pardon? Four agreements. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having a moment of.
Helps us all.
Thank you. I appreciate it tremendously.
And one of them is don't take anything personal.
That's
and it's
right.
because it's just about the other person and their own suffering. Right? They're working through something. They're having their suffering relationship with it, and it's about them internally. And
Very much
so. If you detach from feeling that you need to be involved in that it's about you, it's not about you. It's about that. There might be a situation, of course, but that's the detachment.
Yes,
That's the
very much
detached
so.
involvement.
Yeah.
Because you haven't stopped being involved, but you've detached from your way of being involved.
Yeah, and sometimes you can really see it if you're maybe having an argument or something, and you see how that person's way of thinking is inspiring their frustration, and you can see it's all wrapped up in them, and you're like, I have nothing to do with this. This is really all going on inside of them. And
Well,
then you have compassion.
You lose a lot of suffering when you stop feeling like it's your job to change other people.
And you change your own self.
So if somebody's, really off in some kind of a thing, you're there for them. You can be present, but you can't change their thinking. So what you have to do is, if it's really irritating you, is to remove the irritation from in here. He's not going to do it for you.
In treatment circles, they call this powerlessness.
Oh, okay.
Admitting being powerless. All of this out here is powerless. Everything in here is powerless.
Is that the beginning of
the first
thing?
step of the
AA?
12 steps of AA? The fifth word in, we admitted we were powerless.
So that explains what that means.
That does that we are powerless over all kinds of things and changing it. And when we finally release ourselves from that, we're free. When we accept it, we become powerful. That's the paradox of it.
Well,
when we admit being powerless, all of a sudden we gain personal power.
It seems like everywhere you turn, there's a paradox. And it finally makes you realize why you need to have a sense of humor. Because if you don't have a sense of humor, it just isn't funny.
Yeah.
There it is.
Anybody else comments?
Please. No.
Out in the bleachers?
Did I turn did I make everybody go to sleep?
No.
Anybody have any examples? Part of the joy of a sangha is that you can lay it out there safely, and it helps you to see it when you speak it, and it helps you to say it and speak it to friends who will give you supportive feedback a lot of times. So,
well, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Having gone through some difficult stages, and being older, and still not really grasping that whole concept of not grasping, blew my mind when in our talks in here that I got it.
Yeah.
Clinging. It just transformed my life. I mean, I still work on it, but it was a new concept, and it blew my mind that I hadn't really gotten it before with different studies that I've had in my life. That made a profound difference in my life.
It can
the
make
whole concept of clinging and not clinging.
Second and third. No,
clinging, letting go, renunciation.
You moved from being stuck on the second one into the third.
Truly.
Awesome. That's great, and that's how I feel about this too. The thing is that I knew it.
Yeah, right.
I knew it, but I didn't really know it.
So I guess we're just waiting to be ready for that to happen.
Yeah.
We just are fertilizing the ground here and waiting for the sprout to come.
That's exactly right. And you never know when the light bulb's gonna go on. And that's why it's good to be in a group and different discussion, hearing different people say the same thing. I recently was at a group online thing, and it began with how we're supposed to all love ourselves, that it's very important in Buddhism. We always begin with ourselves. And the Buddha himself actually says you can look the whole world over and not find anyone more worthy of love than yourself. But then you go on and you get into all the psychological aspects, and they come back to ego. Now wait a minute. You got a little thing here you got to think about. And when you think about it, finally you go, "Oh yeah, now I get it." But but you have this continuous having to think about your thinking, and which is to sit down and be silent and let your mind just do what it wants to do, and it will go clickety clack, and it'll spit out all kinds of interesting stuff, some of which may be true and some of which may not be true. That's where you find it. That's why the meditation is good, because this is an inside job. This is not an outside job. This is an inside job. And that's the only way you can get inside, is to widen that gap, open up, and let your mind join in the dance, so to speak. Mark?
Anyone else? Mark? Yeah, go ahead.
When you were talking about involved detachment, I remember where my aha moment was. This visuals is when you did this, the grasping, and you opened your hand, and you still held it. You still held it.
Mm-hmm. Still there.
So it's kind of, you're still involved, yet you were detached. So to me, that was kind of an aha moment of what it means letting go.
Yep.
Not pushing away, but still being involved, yet not grasping.
Yeah. You don't. When you do it like this, you don't own it anymore. Mm-hmm. But it has a life.
Right.
And the other thing that I added to that, I don't know if you remember this, is when you examine, when you recognize things, and you look at them from all angles with an open palm, there's only, in my thinking, there's probably more, but 3 things that happen next. And that is, 1, because you recognize it and look at it, it flies away on its own. It's lovely when stuff does that, because it had its own life anyway, and now it needed to go on. The second thing is, sometimes you have to do the intentional act of blowing it away. It doesn't go away, but you know it has to go. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is, even though it is something that we've looked at, it's meant to stay. It's meant to stay, and if we have it stay, it has some value to us. So, you're absolutely right it's the difference between this and this. Thank you. That helps me with my detached involvement. I hadn't thought of that. That's nice.
Very good. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Could you read the same thing that she read, which is the very first one here?
Sure.
And listen to it perhaps with a slightly different mindset than you heard it the first time.
I got it.
I think you'll hear the karmic implications. I think you'll hear the choice situation. And I think you'll hear who you really are is what you have done with what's inside.
Is it the very first thing here?
Should be.
Here are the sayings of the Buddha. Okay.
All that we are.
That is not it.
It's the first chapter.
Okay.
Oh, she found it. She may have put a marker on it.
I don't know if she's not here now.
Oh, she had to leave. All we are, all that we are.
Is it the first chapter, choices?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. I found it.
Okay. This is in different sections taken from the Dhammapada. Just a little carry around book.
We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you, as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. We are what we think, All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow, unshakable.
Okay? Good stuff.
Should we do the loving kindness?
We'll do a loving kindness. How are we doing on time?
So, yep,
Short
we're an
one
hour.
or a regular one?
We're good. We're right at an hour.
Is anyone here new to the group?
Loving kindness meditation.
What?
Yeah, lots of people. Why don't you explain it?
All right. Loving kindness, or metta, or maitri, is one of the 4 sublime abodes, places where we live in Buddhism. Loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, which is poise or balance. And these we cultivate. And we cultivate them in meditation and in prayers, which are sort of like, they're not really prayers, but they are. It's hard to explain. Anyway, this is, any way you do this is okay. This is goodwill. This is good morning, welcome, farewell, goodbye. This is goodwill. The Buddha always called it non-harming and non-ill will, which is interesting. But it's goodwill towards everyone. It's love towards everyone. And practicing it is a very powerful way of expanding yourself. It really is very helpful. So I'm going to say 4 phrases, and we're going to say them. I'll say them out loud. You say them to yourself in your head. They will be directed towards 5 different people. The first is yourself. As we said, we always begin with ourselves. If you don't love yourself, nobody else, is going to benefit from your not loving yourself. Okay. The second is someone you love very much. The third person you select, be thinking of someone while I'm saying this. The third person is someone neutral. Someone that you see often, but you're really not friends. You maybe don't even know their name. Somebody that waits on you. One of your neighbors that you've never met, but you wave at him on the road. That's a neutral person. The fourth is someone with whom you are in conflict. Either you don't like them or they don't like you. Okay? They could be living, dead. This could be recent, old. Start with somebody simple. Don't start with Adolf Hitler. That's a little too heavy. So just start with something a lot closer to home. All right? And then the fifth is everyone, everywhere. The entire universe. When I get to the phrase, may you live with ease, ease does not mean physical comfort. Ease means equanimity. May you live in balance and poise. Okay? So, center yourself. Don't be self-centered, but center yourself. Here you go. Take a couple of deep breaths. Repeat after me to yourself. May I be well. Excuse me, I got a cough. May no harm come to me. I hate this. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. Darn. And now, bring to mind someone you love very much. Smile at that person and say to him or to her, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Blow them a kiss. Move on to your neutral person. Say to that person, if you don't know their name, that's really bad. Just call them friend. May you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, taking a deep breath, you move farther out to experience having no malice to someone with whom you are in conflict. Bring them to mind, look at them, and say with all the meaning you can muster, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, taking another deep breath, we put our hands over our hearts. It's the only place symbolically big enough to embrace the entire universe. We bring to mind 7 billion people, this absolute phantasmagoria of sentient beings on our planet and perhaps on many other planets throughout the universe. There may be more than one universe. It goes on and on. And to all of them, without exception, say, may all beings everywhere, on this plane and all other planes, be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be freed from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. And with this pure sense of goodwill towards all beings, near and far, on this plane and all other planes, let the feeling sink into your system. And then release your hands. We'll place them in prayer position. And we'll end with this little benediction. Go in peace. Go making peace. Living gently. Loving mightily. And bowing to the mysteries. Thank you all for being here. I'm sorry it was a bit ragged in the timing. We hope to see you next week.